NBC's Kristen Welker making her debut as the new moderator of NBC's Meet the Press this Sunday. And her first interview is a one-on-one exclusive with former President Donald Trump, who is facing 4 criminal probes in the middle of a presidential election. In one exchange, Mr. Trump was asked by Kristen about the UAW auto strike now underway.
Let's talk about the economy. And I want to start by talking about this big standoff between the auto workers and the big 3 auto manufacturers. Yeah. My question for you, Mr. President, whose side are you on in this?
I'm on the side of making our country great. The auto workers are not going to have any jobs when you come right down to it, because if you take a look at what they're doing with electric cars are going to be made in China. The auto workers are not going to have any. I'll tell you what, the auto workers are being sold down the river by their leadership, and their leadership should endorse Trump. The reason is, you got to have choice. Like in school, I want school choice. I also want choice for cars. If somebody wants gasoline, if somebody wants all electric, they can do whatever they want. But they're destroying the consumer, and they're destroying the auto workers. The auto workers will not have any jobs, Kristen, because all of these cars are going to be made in China. The electric cars automatically are going to be made in China.
So let's talk about UAW's leadership. The president, Shawn Fain, has withheld his endorsement of President Biden, but this is what he had to say about you. Quote, another Donald Trump presidency would be a disaster. How would you win that endorsement?
Well, if that's the case, I probably won't win his. I don't know the gentleman, but I know his name very well. And I think he's not doing a good job in representing his union, because he's not going to have a union in 3 years from now. Those jobs are all going to be gone because all of those electric cars are going to be made in China.
NBC News has also extended an invitation to President Biden for a sit-down with Kristen. And she joins me now, Kristen Welker, the new moderator of Meet the Press. First time I can say that.
I know.
It's
surreal to hear that. Great to be with you, Andrea.
And just off of this extraordinary interview, first of all, what was your impression from that exchange?
Well, I think that you heard former President Trump, who is fired up about a lot of these issues and obviously trying to draw a sharp contrast with President Biden. Manufacturing has gone up in recent years. We should say that. But you heard him, I thought it was very notable, say he'd like to win over the endorsement of the auto workers. I read back that statement from the president of the union, underscoring just how hard that's going to be. Notably, the union has not yet endorsed President Biden. But look, taking a step back, it speaks to the importance of unions in this upcoming election and of this state, Andrea. This is a state, Michigan, of course, that former President Trump won in 2016, lost in 2020. It's always quite close, and he's clearly making a very strong play for it as well. And, of course, leaning into his deal-making status, which he talks about, of course, a lot.
And, of course, a lot of the workers live in Macomb County, outside Detroit. That's what we used to call Reagan Democrats.
Right.
Those were the blue-collar Democrats who voted for Ronald Reagan, and certainly could be very open to, well, they were open to Trump in 2016.
It's an important point, because even if he were to not get the endorsement of the union, you can see him saying, look, I'm still going to make a play for a lot of these workers. And I think that is going to be where the focus is, particularly as we watch this battle play out over this standoff. But the broader potential impacts for the economy, Andrea, are just staggering when you think about it. Now, of course, the economic numbers show that there's some improvement. I pressed the president on the fact that, look, doesn't seem like we're heading into a recession based on a lot of assessments by economists at this point. But this is significant. The impact of this standoff could be quite significant.
I wanted to play another exchange where you asked him about the allegation from Jack Smith, special counsel, that he ordered the erasure of those security tapes from Mar-a-Lago where the classified documents were. And that's in the supplementary indictment. Let's play it.
I want to ask you about the case related to Mar-a-Lago. A new charge suggests you asked a staffer to delete security camera footage so it wouldn't get into the hands of investigators. Did you do that? It's false.
But let me tell you what.
Would you testify to that under oath?
I'll testify.
You testify to that under oath?
It's a fake charge by this deranged lunatic prosecutor who lost in the Supreme Court 9-0, and he tried to destroy lots of lives. He's a lunatic. So it's a fake charge. But more importantly, the tapes weren't deleted. In other words, there was nothing done to them. And they were my tapes. I could have fought them. I didn't even have to give them the tapes, I don't think. I think I would have won in court. When they asked for the tapes, I said, sure, they're my tapes. I could have fought them. I didn't even have to give them. Just so you understand, though, we didn't delete anything. Nothing was deleted.
So that's false. The people who testified.
Number one, the statement is false. Much more importantly, when the tapes came, and everybody says this, they weren't deleted. We gave them 100%.
Very defiant, very aggressive on those legal questions.
Well, yes, and of course he didn't turn over those documents that were under subpoena. And that's the crux of this, and that's the crux of so much of the obstruction charges, as well as that allegation that he directed a staffer to delete the surveillance video that shows boxes being moved around. Now, he says he will testify under oath. He can say that. To me, that's really ultimately a decision that will need to be made by him and his attorneys, Andrea, but quite defiant when I pressed him on these legal questions.
And I don't think we've seen a lawyer yet who recommended that he take the stand.
We haven't, but he's leaning into this idea that he will testify under oath. It's notable also that I asked the president when he goes to sleep at night, what do you think about these 4 indictments? Do you worry about going to jail? He says he doesn't. He says, quote, I'm wired differently. So that's another part of our really wide-ranging conversation, Andrea.
We can't wait to see all of
Thank
it.
you.
And when, on Sunday, this is a milestone, as I wrote in the Washington Post column the other day, a milestone particularly for women and for a woman of color, a Black woman, being the moderator of Meet the Press.
Thank you.
You're inheriting, of course, this 75-year tradition. The first television program in history was Meet the Press in 1948. But you're inheriting, this great tradition of your predecessors, Tim Russert, Chuck Todd, most recently. What is your vision?
Oh, Andrea, thank you so much. Well, first of all, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for you. So I stand on the shoulders of you and many others.
You're
well,
a unique talent and brains and hard work.
Thank you, Andrea. Well, look, you have been so wonderful to me. My vision is to approach this as a reporter. That is who I am. That's who I've always been. I've covered 3 administrations. I remember when I got to Washington, you were one of the first people I spoke to. You helped me learn how to work sources. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to travel all across this country. I'm going to be talking to, yes, the candidates, elected officials, but the voters, and making sure that I am representing and asking the top questions on their minds.
Well, you already are. You showed that in your interview with the former president. And we'll all be watching on Sunday. And best of luck.
Thank you so much, Andrea. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.